STARRYUU is a school for self-interpretation. We teach people how to interpret their own dreams, birth charts, tarot readings, and lived experiences, and help them use this knowledge every day. On the podcast, we dive deep into self-exploration and invite special guests to come share their take. Now, onto the show with your host, the human behind STARRYUU, Jackie. Please note, this episode contains mentions of violence that some people may find disturbing between the 10:26 and 11:47 timestamps. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the STARRYUU podcast. My name is Jackie, the human behind STARRYUU, and today we're here to talk about how tarot can help us along our individuation process and or help us uncover our true authenticity. Today, I am joined by our special guest, May Reiland. Jennifer, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. And do you want to just give us a brief background about you?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is May Reiland. I'm an artist and I also design tarot cards. I live in New York City, so I'm coming at you from the other coast today from my studio in Brooklyn. I've been making work as an artist for many years about women's journeys, women's history. I'm really interested in kind of uncovering the stories behind women's lives and history and looking at it through kind of my own personal experience, my own memories. And that's sort of what I've done in my work.
Amazing. I love that. And this ties so well into what we're going to talk about. And even it ties into some things that I'm working on inside STARRYUU. So I'm excited to chat about those as well. But first, let's start by, I'm just going to share a definition of individuation that comes from Very Well Mind. It says, when discussing human development, individuation refers to the process of forming a stable personality. As a person individuates, they gain a clearer sense of self, separate from their parents and others around them. Carl Jung used the term extensively in his work on personal development. He suggested this was a self-realization process. Throughout life, people are prone to losing touch with certain aspects of their true selves. Through individuation, they're able to integrate these aspects of themselves with all of their new learning and experiences that they gain throughout life. So I've been thinking about tarot and how that relates to something like this. And we're going to get into this in the discussion, but does anything come up for you in relation to tarot when I read that?
I have kind of a different journey with tarot than maybe some people do. My journey with tarot was really as an artist. So I wanted to make this painting a few years ago. I really wanted to make this painting that showed a tarot card reader. And within the painting, I wanted to have every single tarot card and I wanted to redesign them. It was a totally insane idea. It was basically like life-size painting with all of these new tarot cards. So I did it. And it was kind of a crazy thing to do. And it took months and months. And I designed this whole deck of tarot cards just to be within the world of the painting. And after I'd done that, I decided to have them printed and sold them. They did really well. And so I started reading them as a result of that. That was the first tarot deck I designed. And it was based on Louis XIV. After that, I decided to deliberately create another deck based on the life of Princess Diana. And in the course of designing them, I really came to know these archetypes. And I became really interested in how with tarot, we are creating multiple stories when we read tarot, when we look at tarot. There's sort of the story within the cards. There's the story that I, as the reader, am projecting. And then there's the story that you, as the person who's having your tarot read, is kind of creating based on the images. And whatever cards come up, there are all these icons, there are all these sort of archetypes that we all have within ourselves. So I really find that no matter what comes up in the reading, you always kind of find a way to connect it to your life, and it can be valuable for that.
Absolutely. I think you hit on so many good points, especially the different viewpoints or experiences that are brought into a tarot reading. And even talking about your deck, like what makes someone choose a Princess Diana tarot deck over some other deck. Like perhaps there's something about their authenticity that they're finding by choosing that deck. Like it speaks to them, it calls to them, they're inspired by it for some reason. And then also your perspective as an illustrator and creator and tarot deck designer, your perspective is put into that deck as well. So not only is it the person who's being read for, the person who's doing the reading, but it also is about the deck itself and the person who created the deck and the person who chose the deck. So I just think there's all these elements that go into even selecting a deck that you're working with that could help you feel that you're working with a tool that's tied to something special to you, to your personality, to your authenticity. So I love how oh, go ahead.
No, no, yeah, you nailed it. I definitely, I was just gonna say, like, actually, I'm gonna crack open the deck now. Look at it. It's funny, like, to have spent so much of my life in the past few years thinking and looking at Princess Diana. It's not something I thought I'd be doing, but it kind of, I was brought here, and I've learned a lot of things about her, about myself, and about other people's relationship with Princess Diana that really surprised me. I think the thing I've come away with the most about Princess Diana, well, a few things. Number one, I have to say, I think Princess Diana has like the lowest ratio of haters to fans of anyone really. It's so rare for me to meet someone that has anything negative to say about Princess Diana, which is interesting because most celebrities kind of have a dedicated group of haters. Actually, one of the reasons I started getting interested in her and kind of becoming interested in her life and working with it in my art is because I'm Catholic, and a lot of my art has to do with martyrs and saints, and especially how would we conceive of martyrs and saints in a contemporary culture. And to me, Princess Diana, she just completely fits into this role of the martyr and the saint. And I think that's one reason she's become so iconic, is because people see this archetype of the martyr and the female saint, that she was a princess, she was sort of, you know, coerced or ended up in this marriage when she was very young, a teenager, married this older man, and became this princess, and then violently died when she was still very young. And if you look at the archetypes of female saints, this is exactly the story of most of the lives of female saints in the Middle Ages, whether it's like Saint Catherine, Saint Baudelaire is a saint I really like. So I think we see this archetype in Princess Diana, whether we're aware of it or not, and kind of attraction for that reason. So that's like the first thing. The other thing I've noticed, there's something about mothers in Princess Diana that I've noticed a really strong connection between motherhood, maternity, and our own relationship with our mothers in Princess Diana.
Absolutely. That honestly resonates for me because people probably say this because Princess Diana was such a fashion and style icon that I think a lot of people took inspiration from her in the 90s. And I think a lot of moms like dressed the way she dressed and had the Princess Diana haircut. And my mom was one of those moms. And there are so many pictures of my mom where people will say, like, she looks just like Princess Diana. And I'm like, yeah, she does, like in ways, you know? And I feel like a lot of people's moms probably looked like Princess Diana
That's
back
so
then.
funny. Yeah, like literally the number one comment I get when I bring up that I've made this deck or people comment to me about it, my mom loved Princess Diana. Oh, Princess Diana is really important to my mom. This is like the number one comment I get from people, which is very interesting because that's one reason I Princess Diana, because my mom loves Princess Diana, loved Princess Diana in the 90s. And I remember like being a little kid in the grocery store checkout. It was always Princess Diana and a Smith, you know, like the good blonde and I've definitely used them both in my work.
That is so interesting. It almost is like, it's almost like the shadow side and the higher energetic side of one person is like you have them each on either side, which actually ties into human design as well, because in human design, in your birth chart, you're basically, it's similar to astrology where the position of the planets makes a difference, because in astrology, the planets are in a certain sign. And in human design, the planets are activating a hexagram from the I Ching, which in human design, they're called gates. And each gate has a exaltation or highest energy form and a detriment or lowest energy form, sort of like the shadow. And with individuation, as Carl Jung taught it, it was about integrating both sides and incorporating both sides of your personality. So if we think of the white blonde 90s icon female and her shadow being Anna Nicole Smith and her highest energy being Princess Diana, you know, if both of those were integrated into one person, like who would they be?
I'm from Houston. as was
Mm-hmm.
Anna Nicole Smith. So there's another angle there that Anna Nicole Smith is from my hometown, so she loomed rather large. Let's see. So she was born November 28th, 1967. Her sign
Mm-hmm.
is Sagittarius.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So she's Sagittarius, born in 1967. I know Princess Diana was a Cancer, like
Makes
myself.
sense.
Yeah, and she was born in 1961. All right.
Mm.
And let's see, Anna Nicole Smith. They were both so young when they died. So Anna
That
Nicole
is
Smith died
true.
when she was 40, and Princess Diana died when she was 36.
Wow.
So, just like one small detour back to this archetype, there's actually a
Yeah.
name for it. It's called the medieval virgin martyr. So the medieval virgin martyr, it's this type of saint, and there's many, many of them. Basically, most of the medieval female saints in the Catholic Church fit into this archetype, and it's a very consistent archetype. They're there's some they're born into a noble family or royal family. They're young and beautiful, and then at a young age, there's some sort of sexual violence or metaphorical sexual violence, or they might be forced into a marriage to a man they don't want to marry by their parent, or there might be like sort of the threat of being forced into marriage. And then their virtue kind of protects them even as they go through this experience. Nevertheless, they die violently at a young age, become martyrs, and become saints after their death. So I just see that so clearly that this is an archetype we are attracted to for whatever reason. And I think there's like a religious angle. I think there's a very sexist angle to it too, because the woman has to be young and beautiful and she has to die before she ages. And she also has to, there's this like kind of duality with her sexuality where she's like sexually desirable, but she has to be kind of punished for that. You know?
You're right. I mean, it seems like the story of Princess Diana's death is she was chased by the paparazzi because the royal family was mad that she was dating another man that wasn't her former husband. So that's exactly what you're saying. She's being punished for choosing to be with someone else. And I think that also she is just such a good example of a person who has gone through this individuation process, because when you think of Princess Diana, you think of someone who's authentic. You think of someone who knew the right thing to do, knew what she wanted. Like, she went through hardships because she, to me, was living so authentically. You know, she realized she was in this marriage that wasn't right for her and she chose to leave it in a very difficult situation. And I've talked about this on a different podcast episode, but individuation is not easy because you have to go sometimes against what everyone around you is telling you about yourself. So I wonder if there's something in this like martyr angle about basically like doing anything to live your authentic life, you know, like if that means putting yourself in harm's way, or if that means, you know, the chance that your husband's family won't like you anymore, or whatever it means, you know, because I think in this world it is hard to live authentically. And there are so many things, I've also talked about this in the last podcast, that influence us. So I think Diana is a great example of someone who did live authentically. And Anna Nicole Smith too, probably. I mean, maybe that's why she's seen as such a in such a negative light, is because she was living in her authenticity in a society that didn't want it or wasn't ready for it or didn't accept it or approve it.
Yeah. Well, so there's this thing about like the physical, like women's physical bodies, obviously. That do you know the writer Hilary Mantel? She died fairly
No.
recently. She wrote this amazing trilogy called the Wolf Hall trilogy about it's fictionalized version of the life of Thomas Cromwell, who was a courtier in Henry VIII's court. So it's sort of a retelling of the wives of Henry VIII. But she was an amazing writer, and she wrote this really provocative essay about 10 years ago that I've returned to a lot called Royal Bodies. And the premise of the essay is that as a royal, historically, the royal body itself it's considered to be sort of something different than the regular human body. It's sort of both more spiritual, like there's this sort of story that the touch of the king or the queen can heal you. It's also more kind of you're not allowed to have a private body. So historically, for women, royal women were expected to basically give birth in public. so that everyone
Wow.
would verify that the air was in fact the air and like come out of her body. And while I mean, we don't do that anymore. We almost do, you know. I mean, with the recent Kate Middleton situation, there's this sense that the bodies of the royals, in a sense, belong to the public. And I think there's this sort of contemporary way that there's like the paparazzi and the internet, but this is actually a very old idea that as part of the deal for being royal is your body kind of doesn't belong.
It's the same with celebrities, right? Like we think we in a way own a celebrity. We think we can have access to them at any time. There's all these videos going around about like fans jumping on stage to hug Michael Jackson or Adam Levine from Maroon 5 and how each of them react so differently. Like Michael Jackson seemed to want the love from the fans and accept it and enjoy it, whereas Adam Levine was like, "What are you doing on the stage? This is freaky, like go away." So I think it's, it seemed like Princess Diana was so saintly in that anyone who approached her, she would treat with love and kindness. But it's also like, how are we acting toward that person? Like, are we acting with love and kindness to them, or are we a fan who needs to touch our favorite celebrity, you know, at any cost? So I just think it's just a crazy concept that going back as far as it did, as you said, where people just think there's like a line that's when someone gets too famous or gets to be or is royal, there's like this line that a normal person or whatever you want to call people feels like they should cross or something. I know you talked about it a little in the beginning, but what was it about Diana that drew you to her to create a tarot deck specifically?
I mean, obviously, I grew up with my mom loving Diana. Diana, you know, she's like in the water, kind of. She's so omnipresent. But I really got into Diana, to be honest. When I was like 20, I was living abroad and I didn't really know anyone. And I was really lonely. And I picked up at the English used bookstore, I think it was the Andrew Morton, the original biography of her that she collaborated on, that was sort of confessional and told all about her eating disorders and stuff for the first time. At that point, she
Mm-hmm.
was still married to Charles. So I read it, and in the way that, I don't know, it's weird how she has that effect on people. I was like, this is just, I relate to this. This is just like my life. I had like nothing to do with my life at all in any way. But there's something about Diana. So I don't know, from then on, I was really, for whatever reason, I felt like connected to her. I don't know how the tarot came about exactly. I was thinking about what I had done, this like Louis the 14th themed tarot. And then I wanted to do something else. And I was like, Diana. I think maybe because she is, I mean, to me, what tarot is about, we've been talking about like archetypes and icons. There is a sort of like blank canvas quality to tarot, right? You're going on this journey, and each card of the 78 cards, it represents a stop on the journey that we all go through in life. You have your star phase, and you have your the fool phase. And I think Princess Diana's life was so archetypal in that way. She went through all these phases really in public. And so it just seemed like a great fit.
Yeah, and it seems also that there was a lot of inspiration to take from her real life experiences to use for each card, like the Lover's card, for example. Would you be able to tell us about that one?
Yeah. So the Lovers card. This card, this kind of also, of course, the Lovers in tarot in general, it represents romantic love, but it also represents being in harmony, right, in your life in general. It's often associated with water. So for this card, I chose to show Diana with James Hewitt, who was one of her lovers during her marriage. After her marriage was going badly, and she started to have some affairs. I think the first affair that she acknowledged was with James Hewitt, and she did finally admit it publicly after the separation. He was in the British military, so he was supposedly very dashing. He taught her sons how to ride horses and spent a lot of time at her country house with her when Charles was with his mistress. So he was the natural choice for the lover. So it was a sort of idyllic period in her life when she was feeling that she was kind of coming into herself. And you have to remember, she was still in her 20s at this point. She was very young.
I love that you chose that for the Lover's card and that you didn't choose Charles.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, Charles, I do like, I weirdly have a soft spot for Charles. Actually, I don't know if you noticed, but right now I'm drinking out of a King Charles coronation mug that my friend brought me from London.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, he was not the love of her life at all. I mean, that's the other thing that I think people, one of my theories about why people kind of connect to Diana is she really fulfills this old archetype of a princess where it was essentially an arranged marriage, you know. They met actually in one of the cards I have their meeting. They actually met when Diana was still a child. This is the Six of Cups, their initial meeting, which I imagined because there are no photos. But she was like a schoolgirl and he was already an adult when they met. And their romance didn't begin until years later.
Wow. So, as you were making these cards, did you go from the beginning of the journey and through Diana's life, like chronologically, or how did you approach it?
So basically, it's not exactly chronological. I made kind of a map almost where I wrote down all of the tarot cards and their interpretation. For example, the Six of Cups, is associated with childhood memories. The Seven of Cups is associated with the universe offering you things, both negative and positive, and you have to be the one to choose, basically. So I took those interpretations and then I kind of matched them with moments in Diana's life. That was my method. So it wasn't exactly scientific, but it's kind of how I did it. So it ends up being kind of not chronological, but you can piece together the whole story of her life through the
Mm-hmm.
cards. You could rearrange them. For example, I did choose for the Seven of Cups, where the universe is offering you things negative and positive, the moment when Charles proposed to her. That it was this moment where really the world was offered to her, and it led to so many things, both negative and positive.
Wow, that's incredible. I want to take a minute to pull up your human design chart because you have a gate activated that honestly resonates with your process of how you just what you just explained, making the cards. Um, okay, so you and your human design chart have gate 62 activated. And this is the gate of details. And it's basically about having the ability to select details to better understand a complex fact or situation and explain it in a clear, structured, tangible way so others can relate to it. And I feel like that's you creating tarot. Like you took this experience, all these experiences of someone's life and picked out specific details and applied them in a way that people could relate to and actually use tangibly in a physical card. And I just think that's so cool. Like this really speaks to your gift as people in design would call it with this gate. So I just wanted to mention that.
Oh, thanks. That's so cute.
Yeah, it's fun, right? Also, you were talking about tarot as storytelling and combining people's experiences and memories. And this is sort of how we draw meaning out of tarot. And with STARRYUU, one of our modalities is this new modality called Star Matrix, which was developed by this energy healer named Sylvia Hartman. And Star Matrix is all about basically meditating and recovering memories from your life that were empowering. So when you go through this meditation, like memories will come up that you haven't thought about for like decades. And then you're asked to document them and then reflect on what they mean for your life right now. And so I feel with tarot, it's kind of like a prompt in order to do the same thing. So you may have something that's going on in your life right now that you're asking the cards about. And then whatever card you draw is sort of a prompt, right? To like reflect on what you need in that moment. And just pairing it all together with you know, whatever you're experiencing in that moment is different than you'll experience even a moment later. If you ask the cards the same question, you may not get the same card. So it's like that moment in the universe wanted you, or God or source or whoever wanted you to have that story or remember that story in order for you to need it right then. So I that's what I really love about tarot.
I totally agree with you 100%. I think, my view of tarot is I don't think of myself as a psychic or medium. That's not really how I see it. I really do think of it as a storytelling device. It's like prompting. So when we draw cards for people or for ourselves, You're presented with a series of like possibilities, stories, and you immediately start free associating. It's like human nature. You see these
Yeah.
pictures and you immediately start like applying them to your life, thinking about it. And I think it can really be a way for you to kind of think through what's front of mind and what's going on in your life. To me, that's what it's about. It's about sort of like using these images as a way to uncover maybe the story that you want to tell yourself about the moment. It's all about kind of personal choice.
Think that's so interesting. For me, whenever I pull a card for myself, I also feel that I'm being asked to look at something that maybe I would didn't want to look at or felt scared to look at or it felt uncomfortable to me. But the card is so powerful in that it's like, no, you need to face this right now. And I really like that about it. I think it is hard for a lot of people to face those things. I mean, that's also part of the individuation process is like, are you afraid of who you really are? And can you really be that person? And do you really want to be that person?
The cards like tell you things you don't necessarily want to know, I guess, or maybe you don't think you want to know. I agree with that. I also think like, but I mean that's all in my perspective. It is all coming from you ultimately. Like you on some level at any given moment what you don't want to be thinking about. The parts of yourself that you're like not really ready to confront or deal with. It can be, I think if you look at the tarot and you see something in that, obviously it's something to think about. I think that's sort of it's funny because I think I when I will like do tarot publicly, I don't do it that much, but sometimes I will and be doing it for strangers. It's funny to see how they'll see an image immediately. They know you can just see on their face. They like know, if you pull the Emperor, that's when I feel like people always have a strong reaction. In my deck, so the Emperor, it represents sort of like the masculine principle, male authority, etc. And in mine, I drew it as Prince Philip, who was the husband of Queen Elizabeth, and he represented this really strong force in Diana's life and in sort of the royal family. And whenever I pull that one, women have a really strong reaction to it as this sort of like male authority that I think they're immediately picturing someone.
Yeah, for sure. That's such a good point. And I really like your perspective on tarot because in STARRYUU, it's the same. One big thing about STARRYUU is that I'm not an expert and I'm not a guru, and I don't want to portray myself in that way because it's not authentic, it's not true. I'm trying to create a space where people can interpret for themselves. So I'm giving them the basics of human design or the basics of tarot. And going back to this concept with Star Matrix of like, it's your life, it's your experience, it's your birth chart, whatever experiences you've had in life or whatever your memories are, whatever you want, whatever your true authenticity is that you want to live, you can explore and experiment with all of this through these tools. And I'm not here to tell you, who you are or what should resonate with you. I'm just giving people the tools in order to do that. And I love this aspect of, or this way of looking at tarot, which is like interpretive per person. And yeah, I mean, also I will at the end of this podcast plug the journal that we're working on together. But so my human design profile is 3-5. That's the great experimenter. So I love to do experiments, and I would love to do an experiment with you right now, which is me asking the cards what aspect of myself I don't want to face. And maybe we can do a reading.
Sure.
This could be really embarrassing. I don't know what's going to come up, but I'm down. I'm open. I'm an experimenter, so I'm ready for it.
Right. I'm going to just take a pause and just shuffle. So what I normally do, I can do a few things. So you specifically want to ask that question, what's the thing that you don't want to face right now? We can pull that. And then do you want to do like past, present, future as well?
Yes, that sounds great.
So let's do it. So you want to repeat your question, rephrase or not?
Yes, I think what I want to ask is what aspect of myself do I not want to face right now? I feel like pretty confident in who I am, and I feel like I live quite authentically, but I'm sure there are some shadows that I have repressed or suppressed. So I would love to know what aspect of myself am I not ready to face, or am I purposefully not confronting or hiding away?
All right, let's do it. Oh, okay. What I've pulled for you is the Five of Cups. Where I show you the image that I have here, does that bring up anything for you, or do you have any associations with the Five of Cups?
I don't. Like I said, I'm not an expert and I can't remember anything because my head and ajna centers are open, as are yours. So you know the struggle there. But no, it doesn't bring up anything. So let's talk about this card before we get into the interpretation. So we're at a cemetery and there seems to be a ghost coming out of the grave. And there are cups around the cemetery as well as a person on the physical plane speaking to or looking quizzically at this ghost with while holding a bouquet. There's a motorcyclist in the background, and Diana looks like she's sleeping or maybe has passed on. No, she's dreaming, maybe. And the color scheme is very, what's the word I would use? Not solemn, but it's blues and grays, and it almost feels like it could be calming, but a little eerie as well. Yeah, I feel like this person on the physical plane is facing something beyond and they're not sure what to do with it, but they feel very calm. They're not scared, they're not happy. They're just sort of like accepting or coming to terms with something or asking more about it in like a dream space, perhaps. That's what I have right now. I can't apply that to my life yet, but I will think about it.
I love that. So I think you obviously are doing a great job of kind of putting your own interpretation on it. That's what it's all about. I can tell you, so the Five of Cups is a card that's about, cups are generally about relationships, right? Any kind of human relationship. The Five of Cups is about disappointment, regret, and being kind of too much living in the past. There's something unresolved in the past that's kind of not allowing you to move forward. And this may be, you may find that this thing, whatever this thing in the past that's kind of not allowing you to move forward is, it may be manifesting in like your dreams and in your subconscious. So I would just say this is an invitation to like pay attention to your dreams, your subconscious, to see what from the past is coming up and what kind of ghosts need to be acknowledged and laid to rest, perhaps.
It's very relevant because I recently learned that I was born under a balsamic moon. And with that, there is this like karmic, like what do I want to call it? There's basically karma with me in a certain type of relationship through my past lives that I need to overcome. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot. And I do think there's an archetype of this relationship that has come up throughout my life. And I've been trying to figure out how to put it to rest in this life, this karmic cycle with this relationship. And it's been on my mind a lot of like, how am I going to end this cycle? How am I going to, put this whole karmic thing to bed so that in my next life it's not even a thing. So yeah, I think this card speaks to that so well.
I can also add, just for context, what I based this card on was another in Diana's life. Although this one's much more shadowy. It's not 100% clear that they had an actual relationship. They had some sort of she loved this person somehow. Whether what happened, we don't know. But his name was Barry Maneki. He was her bodyguard, and he was her bodyguard for many years. And they had a really special relationship. And they have had an affair. He very mysteriously died in a motorcycle accident in 1987. And Diana always believed that he had been murdered by the royal family because of their relationship. And she was very haunted by his death. Yeah.
Wow, that is so interesting. What a great card.
It's funny when cards come up that are like you asked for what you didn't want to confront, and this is sort of a card that's literally about not confronting things. It's always interesting when it happens. Like meta.
Honestly, every tarot reading that I'm a part of, I feel it's so relevant. It never fails me.
Let's do past, present, future. So
yeah,
pulling one for past. All right, we're at Cups again. Two of Cups. Two of Cups is a card that represents like stability, love, marriage, that sort of thing. There's some sort of like positive partnership in your past, whether that's your parents, whether that's your like a partner you've had, but there's some sort of stable and happy partnership in your past that's like giving you a positive. The next card, it represents the present. More cups. Cups are, I don't know, I shuffled this quite well. The cups they want to come out.
I love it.
This is the Seven of Cups. You've got the Seven of Cups in the present position. We talked about that already, actually. But the Seven of Cups is the universe is like offering all these things to you. Some of them are going to be negative, some of them are going to be positive, and it's up to you to make the choice. So, right now, you're being offered a lot of things, and you're kind of in an important moment in your life where you need to think carefully about what things you want to choose and take from the universe, and what things you want to say, you know what, I don't need that. I'm going to leave that. Right.
By the way, the Seven of Cups card, your specific card, it really speaks to me. I love how it's all these little like things in the cups, and I think they're all really like intriguing. And I don't know, I think it's funny because I for a while was really into archiving and like finding physical objects and documenting them. And this card is kind of evoking that for me of like all the little things that I like, or like you said, the universe is giving to me, and it doesn't mean they're all for me. And also with my human design, I have gate 11 activated, which is the gate of ideas, and it's activated in three different planetary positions, or it's activated by three different planets. And something I've learned with gate 11 is that not all of my ideas are for me. Like I should be sharing my ideas and someone else may take inspiration from them. I'm also a manifester in human design, which is like their whole thing is igniting and inspiring other people. So I really like this card because also it's Charles. Is it Charles holding her hand in this card?
Yeah, so like my version of it has Diana as when Charles proposes to her. She spoke about this moment that he proposed to her, and she kind of knew it was coming. And she spoke about this moment where she had this like vision of the future. She knew he was offering her the opportunity to be the queen in the future. And she said later, after the divorce and everything, she was like, "Oh, but even in that moment, I knew it would never come true." I don't know, that's like hindsight talking, but for what it's
I
worth.
think you evoked that in the card very well because a lot of times with a proposal, it would be portrayed as extremely happy, where it could be like bright colors and you have the like the calming blue and gray again. And I think that really evokes like she knew maybe it's also back to individuation and authenticity. Like she perhaps knew that wasn't what she wanted, but she felt it was the path she had to take. And it led like, if you think about destiny and everything, it led to so many things that made up her life as we know it and remember it so well. So in that moment, it's like she was being asked to face something she perhaps didn't want to, like she didn't want to marry him maybe, but she felt she had to. I don't know. So interesting. So interesting.
So it's all about cups. Your last card for the future, King of Cups. Um,
Cups again. Oh my God.
cups again. Yeah. So I guess you should really be thinking about like the people in your life and like the relationships you're having with other people, and kind of that seems to be the focus for the moment, or at least what the
Mm-hmm.
cards are saying. King of Cups. So the King of Cups is a great card to end on with the future. King of Cups, it represents sort of like emotional maturity and fulfillment. It can be about a relationship with another person, that you're kind of finding a peaceful and emotionally mature, stable adult relationship. Not necessarily, it can also sort of just be about finding your own emotional maturity within yourself. So looking at
Mm-hmm.
these together, what I'm seeing is you're kind of you have there's a little in your past, there's some maybe a bit of conflict between this Two of Cups energy, which is like a very stable, peaceful energy, positive relationships. There's some conflict between that and this Five of Cups. There's some unresolved thing in your past with some sort of relationship with another person that is kind of not laying to rest. The
Mm-hmm.
universe is offering you a lot right now. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. You have to like be wise about what you select. But ultimately, it's saying, this is all going in a positive direction. Another reason I became interested in tarot is my like artwork in general. It has a lot to do with like combining different historical eras, combining different people that I think sort of have some sort of connection. Like before, we were talking about Anna Nicole Smith, and I have this painting I did of Anna Nicole Smith as relating her to like the Virgin Mary as the Pietà, that moment in art history when the Virgin Mary holds Jesus who's dead on her lap and is like weeping. And I kind of saw Anna Nicole Smith as this tragic figure and put her in this role. And I think that's one thing that attracted me to tarot is like you can find these like juxtapositions. That's all tarot is, you know, it's just juxtaposing different images. And it's totally once you have the deck, it's out of your hands, it's happening kind of organically. And you immediately start to make these connections. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's super cool. So I had in the notes like talking about Diana as a religious figure, which I feel like ties back to what you were just saying. And you've also already explained her in this like saintly way. But is there anything else that you wanted to touch on on that?
I don't know. Another thing, interesting thing I've learned about Diana in my is Diana has like different names in different countries, which I found really interesting. So, for example, in America, it's Princess Diana,
Mhm.
right? In England, it's Lady Diana. In Spanish-speaking countries, it's Lady V. And then I had a Chinese friend who told me there's like a totally different name for, which I can't remember now. There's like a totally different name for Princess Diana in China. So I think it's weird how she's become this like universal symbol of motherhood and kind of female virtue, for better or worse. One thing I've also become aware of, so people idolize her so much. And I think because I made the tarot deck, people think that I feel that way about her. Actually, I don't. Like I mean, I I think she's a really interesting person. But I think if you learn more about her life, she was definitely a human being. I mean, for example, there's that famous image of her that was the cover of or the like advertisement for this most recent series of The Crown. You know, the where she's like sitting on the diving board by
Mhm.
herself in the blue swimsuit. And actually, that's in my deck. I chose that for the card, the Hermit.
Yeah.
Um, that image, and the funny thing about that image is she totally created that image. She called the paparazzi and like had them specifically come and take that image because she wanted people to feel sorry for her because she was legitimately sad that she wasn't able to be with her children at that time because they were with Charles. So she was like feeling sorry for herself and she wanted to like project this image of like how sad and how hard it was for her, which is funny because she's like literally on a multi-million-dollar yacht in the Mediterranean. It's like a funny thing, and she totally like styled and managed this, and she was a genius. You know, she was like a marketing genius, but people don't really like to think of her that way.
That is such a great point. I don't think many people do think of her that way. And it's almost like with the individuation process, you know, it is not about suppressing those sides of yourself. It's about becoming aware of them and allowing them. And I feel like that story is a great example. Like she was in this dark place and instead of just pretending everything was okay and being like, I'll just, you know, act like I'm happy, she literally invited the paparazzi to come photograph her in this dark place so the world could see. You know, I just think that is such a great example. Such a great example.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Like she was so good at it. You know, she was so good at like creating these images. Another famous one, which I have in here as well, it was when she was still married to Charles, but they were having problems. I have it as the Four of Swords. They were visiting India, and she very deliberately, like when they went to the Taj Mahal, she found this bench to seat herself at where she would be kind of in front of the Taj Mahal looking really like sad and pathetic and alone. And she very consciously like created this image, had paparazzi take pictures because of course the Taj Mahal is a symbol of like marriage and love because it was built by a king for his dead wife as
Hmm.
like an act of love. And she was trying to you know, point out that Charles was this bad husband who was cheating on her. So, I mean, she really like manipulated the media all the time and manipulated the public, and totally would never admit it. And so she was, you know, there was like a darker side to her character.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. That's really fascinating. And just to go back really quick, when you were talking about that you like telling stories of people, I can't exactly remember how you phrased it, but it was something about royals or people who are connected to other people. What was it that you said?
Oh, like you said, royals were people, by the way. Royals are not people. I think I'm interested in both like public figures, but also a lot of my paintings are about kind of, it's very much what we're talking about right now. It's about my own feelings about these famous people, my own feelings
Hmm.
about Diana, my own feelings about Anna Nicole Smith, my own feelings about like my religious upbringing. And one way I sort of think of my art, and the Diana Tarot like very much fits into this category, is it's sort of like fan art. You know, I'm making fan art about Princess Diana, and I'm making fan art about the Virgin Mary, and I'm kind of like I'm a fan. I love them. I have a lot to say, but yeah, it's definitely there's this aspect of like I'm creating my own version of these well-known stories. I primarily am a painter, and I do a lot of watercolor on paper and gouache on wood. My art is all about stories and narratives, and I'm really inspired by medieval art and the way medieval artists tell these narratives in two dimensions. So you get one character, say one saint, we see them over and over again, and we like see their life story in one single image. And a lot of my art is like that. I show stories in two dimensions where we watch the journey of a character, usually a woman. Sometimes I do self portraits. I also do a lot of historical inspired work. And that's kind of how I got into Diana and tarot too, because like, what is tarot if not like this two dimensional journey?
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. It's such a good way to look at it. That's amazing. That's so great. Honestly, I grew up Catholic as well, and it reminds me of like the stages of Jesus's journey and stained glass, which
Stations of the Cross.
yes, 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 yes. I couldn't remember the name. Yes, exactly, which
Mhm.
is just so tied into like your the way you tell stories. I feel like is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because obviously the point of those images was to tell these religious stories to people that were not literate necessarily. So to
Mm,
tell stories through images to people that couldn't read or didn't really have a relationship with reading. And it's funny, I think we're like returning there as a culture. like
yeah, with
we're like
emojis.
very much oh my God. But like we're definitely returning to a way more like image-based culture versus a word and text-based culture. I think it's interesting that we're actually like my art is inspired by medieval art, but I think we're also like as a culture we're kind of going back to that like visual-based storytelling world. I think it's all visual storytelling, like TikTok, all this stuff is visual stories. Like it's all visual storytelling. Like literally, they're called stories on Instagram. You know what I mean? And you know, here's something else that's funny. It's like exactly the same size as the tarot card. There's something about this like handheld size that's very appealing.
That's so true.
That I think you can like hold it in your hand, you can see it, and it's funny. But yeah, I think tarot definitely has a future. I hope like we as a civilization have a future. But as long as we're around, I think people are going to be interested in this and kind of doing their own interpretations because I think we all are looking for tools to like think about ourselves and like why do we do things that we do and how can we do better.
Well, I feel like you just plugged STARRYUU so well because we offer many tools and resources to help people figure that out and to help connect them with their authenticity. And one of our new tools is going to be this tarot journal that Jennifer and I have worked on. It's a Notion template tarot journal that you can customize however you want along your tarot exploration. But we've kickstarted the journal with Jennifer's Princess Diana Major Arcana cards, and I'm so excited about it. So if you want to check that out, you can head to starryu.app to sign up. And Jennifer, where can people purchase your Princess Diana deck and stay tuned to all the art that you're working on?
Yeah, well, I'm on all the major platforms. You can follow me on Instagram. My name on Instagram is just my name, Jennifer May Reiland. That's JenniferMayReiland. That's also my website, jennifermayreiland.com. You can purchase my tarot cards there. And I also have an Instagram for the Diana Tarot. It's just at the Diana Tarot. Really simple. You can follow the Diana Tarot there.
Perfect. I didn't know that. I'm so excited to follow that.
So we're having this conversation right now. All of my friends were obviously reaching out to me a couple of weeks ago because I'm like the royalty person in my friend group. That's who I've become. Not on purpose, but that's who I am. And now to my friends. So obviously people were reaching out to me with the Kate Middleton thing. And I was thinking a lot about how Diana really shaped this world that we're living in now in terms of like constant media access to the royals. That was very much a Diana thing. It was kind of imposed on her, but then she became the master of it, where when she was really young, they were manipulating her, but then she learned to manipulate the public image of her. And it's like Kate Middleton is like living in the world that she created, for better or worse. But
Mm.
Diana died before things really went crazy in terms of like the internet, social media. It's really weird to imagine what Diana, that's like a weird counterfactual, like what would Diana be doing today with all of the like tools of social media? It's like a weird thought. Would she be really present on social media? I don't, or would she have like withdrawn, you know?
I love that question. That is amazing. We should ask the cards. No, I'm just kidding. That is such an amazing question. I don't even know. I don't even know. I can't even imagine it. Oh, such a good question, Jennifer. I had so much fun. I have no idea when I'll be done editing
Okay,
this,
have a good
but
afternoon.
hopefully soon. Okay, you too.
Okay,
Bye.
good luck. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider supporting us at starryu.app/shop. If you want to start interpreting your own dreams, birth charts, tarot readings, and lived experiences, and better understand how to use this knowledge every day, join STARRYUU for free by visiting starryu.app. That's 2 R's, 2 U's, and 2 P's everywhere. By the way, if today's date is the date of your birth, happy birthday. If your birthday is in 88 days from now, happy Design Day. Bye!